Welcome back to Chatter Sports Podcast, number 9. We're here with our new guest, WXTC Sports Director Ben Collins, and Gabe and KT. So we're going to get right into it, starting off with some games, but happy to be back, and I'm happy to be talking ball with all y'all.
All right. Well, without further ado, let's jump into some recent news. The New York Football Giants, my New York Football Giants, have hired John Harbaugh as the franchise's next head coach. I can't be more pumped about that. Harbaugh was the number one coaching target on the market. He lands with, I personally believe, the number one job that was open for him. A lot of young talent on the team, the number 5 pick, and a quarterback on a rookie contract. You can't get that with every other team, and that's why I think Harbaugh was the best fit for the New York Giants, and it was a match made in heaven.
Yeah, we can talk about each one of these too. I think we could start. I'd like to give my thoughts on it. I think this immediately puts the Giants in playoff contention. I think they're going to the playoffs next year, like automatic. I think it's an automatic bid. I think that this takes them to the next level, and I think it's a perfect fit for Harbaugh, who's going to take that team to the next level with Dart, Neighbors, and Scadaboo, and improving defense. What do you think, Ben?
I think, I can agree with you to an extent because every team in that division has the talent to go to the playoffs.
Yeah.
It really just depends on injuries, coaching, things like that. And that's what was holding the Giants back was coaching.
Yeah.
Now that they have a coach who's been there, I think that they're going to have, like you said, the young talent that's there. But at the same time, that division is a meat grinder. It is brutal to get through.
Yeah.
So, in Harbaugh, when it comes to divisional opponents, he's not terrible. He's not great. So it really just depends on, how well he plays within the division because those games are going to matter for playoff contention because, you lose a couple of them and you got Philly or Washington or any of those other teams rolling. One, you probably won't win the division. If you lose all 4, you're down 4 games in your conference as well, and it'll just knock you down the standings to maybe below a wild card. Now, if you win out the rest of the season and you go and you lose 6 playoff games or 6 divisional games, you're still at 11-6.
Yeah.
But that's the NFL. That doesn't happen every day. So I think they are capable of being a playoff team. I think they're going to be much improved. I think they'll have a winning record. But as far as being an automatic lock next year to make the playoffs, just going to have to wait and see. I wouldn't make that claim just yet, but it's definitely possible.
Yeah. I mean, you break down who's in that division, and it's the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Commanders.
Yep.
So the Commanders have Jay McDaniels returning, and they'll be probably one of the top teams in that division too, in my opinion.
Good defense. Young, talented offense.
And then you bring up the Cowboys. The Cowboys are always a question mark.
They're perennially mid.
If they get some defensive pieces in free agency,
I just never trust the Cowboys. I'm picking the Giants to beat the Cowboys next year.
I think they do, but at the same time, Dallas's offense is phenomenal.
Yeah,
and I don't know how good that Giants defense is going to be. Yeah, I know Harbaugh is going to, probably draft some defensive pieces. That's what they're going to look for. But at the same time, you got to have a defense ready to go up against an offense like Dallas's that's really, really good. So,
yeah. And then, the last team, the Eagles, with Patullo getting fired, we don't know how they're going to look next year with all the question marks with A.J. Brown and whatever. So,
again, I still think they'll be a potential playoff team.
Yeah, for sure.
All righty. The next hire that we have here is the Falcons bringing in a familiar foe to you Browns guys. Kevin Stefanski was hired as the Falcons' next head coach. I really like that hire for the Falcons. They're trying to develop a quarterback in Michael Penix Jr., who's been injured a little bit, but, I don't know if Raheem Morris, a defensive-minded head coach, was really a great fit for his development. young running back in Bijan Robinson, Drake London, another young wide receiver, very talented. Kyle Pitts will be heading to free agency, but I feel like the Falcons' offense was not truly unlocked with all of the head coaches that they've had previously. Arthur Smith was a meathead. Raheem Morris was the defensive-minded head coach, so he didn't really unlock that offense fully. I think now with Stefanski, you're going to see that the Falcons have a fully unlocked offense should they choose to bring back Kyle Pitts. And I think that's a really good hire by the Atlanta Falcons. You have to have an offensive mind to come in and work with the team trying to develop a quarterback. That's just personally how I felt about that.
Yeah, what do you think? You agree?
Yeah, I do agree with that. Michael Penix, you're trying to develop, and Stefanski is a guy who's known for developing quarterbacks. But, from a head coaching standpoint and knowing who else is in that division, and the best quarterback in that division spending 2 years with a Stefanski team in Baker Mayfield, and they were both with the Browns, I think it's going to be a little bit of a struggle at first. I think he will improve the Falcons. I also think he's going to do what he did with the Browns and have just the best opening script you've ever seen. And then once he gets off the opening play call script, I think that's when things start to go wrong a little bit, as you saw with the Browns for just about every year, unless he has a defense that is going to keep the opposing offense off the field constantly to the point where he can relax a little bit, not be too stressed. And, when he had success with the Browns, it started early on in the season. I know in 2020 they dropped their first game to Baltimore as an embarrassing loss. Then they went on a 4-game win streak. They had back-to-back games at home. They rolled right through them. 2023, they opened the season at home with a dominant win against Cincinnati. I think they won 4 of their first 5. They lost that game to Pittsburgh in week 2. But if he can have his team rolling at the beginning of the season, start off hot, if you can win 3 of those first 4 games in the first quarter of the season, I think they'll have something going in Atlanta. But again, that's another division that, although much less talented than the NFC East, it's a meat grinder. You got some up-and-coming quarterbacks. You got Baker Mayfield, Bryce Young, and Tyler Shuck, who looked really good. My roommate is a Saints fan, and he will not shut up about how Tyler Shuck is going to be a top 10 quarterback by the end of next season. So, I mean, that's just what you got to look for. You got to develop Michael Penix to be a guy who's going to at least be ahead of Tyler Shuck if you want to have some success within that division. And I think he's the coach to do it. I do like Kevin Stefanski a lot. I thought he did a lot of good things with the Browns, although I thought after this year it was time for a change.
I agree.
So
Well said.
I think it's going to be an interesting thing to see him in that division, and I really hope he does well. And I think he's going to have some success. Might take a little bit of time, but I think he'll do some good things, and just have to see what he can do with Penix. But the offensive talent that's there, I think, is really good. If they can get some defensive pieces in there, and that could just help tremendously.
Yeah, I also agree that it's going to be a lot better for the Falcons' offense going forward. They weren't really like a high-powered offense with Raheem Morris at the helm, and they weren't. I feel like this will unlock their offense at least a little more with Penix, and they'll be able to score some more points. Even though I did not like the firing from Raheem Morris, I did not think that he deserved to get fired. Going on a 4-game winning streak to end the season, and they had a lot of injuries. They had some injuries on their defense. Penix got hurt. London was hurt for a little while. So I do think that it's going to help their offense out a lot, though, having Stefanski there to play call. But I do think that Stefanski also needed a new home. It was time for him to go in Cleveland. So I do think it's going to be good for the Falcons' offense going forward.
Yeah, well said. I think to touch on your point, Ike, I think they moved off of Raheem Morris knowing that they needed a better offensive developer for their quarterback. I think they knew that they'd be okay, they'd always be in the mix, but I feel like they needed to take that next step, bringing in an offensive-minded guy, like we talked about, to develop Penix more.
KT,
Another
can you
shocking
speak a
firing.
little bit louder too? We're kind of losing you a little
Yeah.
bit just because it's.
Mhm.
Yeah, sure. Another shocking firing to some, maybe not a whole lot, but the Bills have moved off of Sean McDermott and fired him after the divisional round loss to the Denver Broncos. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I am not shocked by this. I think that the Buffalo Bills should have done this last season when they lost to the Chiefs for the fourth time, I think, in the playoffs. McDermott just wasn't getting it done. He had the number one defense for all these years. He's a defensive head coach. He has a stud quarterback in Josh Allen that many people think is the best quarterback in football. I personally don't. I think he's overrated, but a lot of people think that he's the best quarterback and most talented quarterback in football. And they just couldn't get over the hump. They beat Kansas City in the regular season, but they just couldn't, for some reason, beat them in the playoffs. And when you constantly run into that same roadblock, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. And I thought that the Bills were insane for bringing him back last year after they lost to the Chiefs again, knowing that they cannot get by Patrick Mahomes. Joe Burrow gave him some problems and knocked him out of the playoffs. And then this was just the nail in the coffin for McDermott, losing to Bo Nix on the road when Bo Nix had a bum ankle in overtime at the last thing, turning the ball over 4 times. The defense not getting any pressure on Bo Nix at all. It was just time for a change in Buffalo. And a lot of people disagree with that. A lot of people think it's insane that they're pitting that loss on Sean McDermott, but I don't. I just think they need to hear a new voice. It was just time for him to go, and I think it was just too late that they fired him. I personally was a fan of the move, but it should have happened last year.
Yeah, I agree with that. But at the same time, he took a team that went 18 years without going to the playoffs, and I believe it was year 2, had him in the postseason and missed the playoffs only one other time after that. And I feel like he brought Buffalo back to being a consistent playoff team and winning multiple division titles and just playing really well as a team. Again, you could say the same thing with Mike Tomlin, just not being able to get it done in the playoffs.
Mhm.
But again, at the same time, I think he's done a lot of really good things. I think he was a really solid coach, and I would love the Browns to hire him. I don't think it's going to happen, but I love the Browns to pick him up. But as far as Buffalo is concerned, you still have a very talented team. I think if you bring in an offensive-minded coach to better Josh Allen, to better the offense, and bring in some weapons and hire a true solid defensive coordinator, I think that Buffalo will be fine.
Yeah. I also agree with that too. I don't mind. I think he's a really good head coach. It's another Mike Tomlin situation, like he said. If you go back and you look at their last, like how they've lost in the playoffs from 2017, I went back and I looked at how the Bills lost in every year. They made the playoffs the last 9 years. In 2017, they lost the wild card to the Jags. 2018, they lost the divisional to the Patriots. 2019, they lost the wild card to the Texans. 2020, they lost the divisional to the Chiefs. 2021, they lost divisional to the Chiefs again. 22, they lost divisional to the Bengals. 23, they lost divisional to the Chiefs. 24, they lost the AFC Championship to the Chiefs. And then this year, they just lost the divisional to the Broncos. They just can't get over the hump. It doesn't matter if it's Mahomes now, if it's Bo Nix, if it's Burrow. Not even to mention I don't even know about Lamar. Like if Lamar was even in the conversation too, it's another roadblock for Josh Allen and McDermott. He needed to find a new home, and they just haven't been able to get it done in the playoffs. So I think I understand why they did it. It's just I do think that I do still think he's a top 10 to 15 coach. So he'll find a home.
Yeah, no doubt. He will definitely be a coach in high demand come the hiring cycle, especially right now. A lot of teams will want McDermott, especially a team that feels that they need a defensive mind to lead them moving forward. All right. Now let's talk about the games this past weekend. The Broncos beat the Bills to advance to the AFC Championship game. But Was that a blessing or a curse for the Broncos? Yeah, they moved on, but they've lost Bo Nix now. That really sucks for them, especially winning a big game like that just to have your quarterback go down. So that sucks. But the Broncos only won that game. Very interestingly, the Broncos won that game having won the turnover battle by 4. They were +4 in the turnover battle, yet it went to overtime to win that game. That's a little concerning. The Broncos are a team that cannot run the football. I know J.K. Dobbins' practice window just got opened, but since he's been down, the Broncos have been a completely one-dimensional team on offense. They've struggled to run the ball. And against a Patriot team that shut down Woody Marks this past week, I do not see a way in which the Broncos are going to be able to move on against the Patriots, especially on their backup quarterback. And now that you have no run game, that's going to be a tough ask. But Josh Allen turning the ball over 4 times, James Cook fumbling the ball 1 time. You can't win a football game like that if you're Buffalo. I know people are saying, oh, it was the referees. The referees screwed them. I'm sorry. Did the referees force Josh Allen to turn over the ball 5 times? Or the Bills to turn over the ball 5 times? I don't think so. And people are saying, oh, but the penalties too. They were clear penalties. I don't know why people are complaining about that. The Bills played sloppy football and they lost the game. That's what happens when you play sloppy football. You turn it over, you commit penalties. Look at Miami. Miami was a team that was very mistake heavy. They had those offsides penalties, that face mask on 3rd and 17 last night. But my point being, teams that play sloppy, unfundamental football, that's the result you get. You don't move on in the playoffs when one play can decide the outcome of a game. You have to do the little things right, and the Bills simply did not do the little things right, and the Broncos did. They took care of the football for the most part outside of the 1 interception by the defensive lineman, and that's why they're moving on. So that's all I got to say about that game.
Yeah, I mean, from what I'm thinking about with heading into the AFC Championship, with a backup quarterback in Jarrett Stidham, there's no reason why Denver should not be able to run the football. You have 2 of the best offensive linemen in the game in Quinn Miners and Garrett Bowles. They're both all pro, and they're on different sides of the line. I believe Miners is the right guard and Bowles is the left tackle. I would say to make things easier to run the football with Jaleel McLaughlin, put them on the same side. As an offensive lineman myself, it is not hard to play right and left guard. I've done it. I've played both I played all 5 positions in one game. It's possible. It's not rocket science to play right and left guard and switch that out with a week's notice. So I would say with a backup quarterback, take the pressure off of him, run the football against a Patriots team they're okay at stopping the run, but against Bowles and Miners, I don't think they're going to do much against those guys. You put them both on the left side, I would say, just to take even more pressure off the blind side and keep Garrett Bowles as the left tackle and run the football. I think they should be able to run the ball a little bit and rely on their defense. I think both these teams have solid defenses. It's going to come down to the trenches. That's what this game is going to come down to. It's going to be cold. It's going to be mile high. The air's going to be thinner. I think it's going to be a fairly low scoring game. I think it's going to come down to the wire because both teams are going to play good defense. But I think the Patriots offense will be just a little too much, especially with Denver having a backup quarterback. Because in the NFL, you can't run the ball 80 times a game and expect to win games like that in the playoffs. You're going to have to throw the ball a little bit. And I just feel like the Patriots are going to be the better team there. But, looking back at last week, just to touch on a little bit, KT, you said pretty much everything I would have said about last week's game with the turnovers and everything. That's going to be the key for Denver, is forcing turnovers from Drake May, and also just playing defense. They're a top 3 unit in the NFL for a reason. They're a phenomenal defense. Gonna have to rely on your defense. Gonna have to have a phenomenal game plan heading into this game, and just rely on what has won you games. Because I'm going to be honest, Bo Nix has not been the guy that's won them a lot of games. It's been their defense that has won them multiple games. Those comebacks are a two-way street. You're down big, your defense needs stops and clutch moments. That's what happens. And it takes the pressure off the offense. You can't come back if the other team keeps scoring. So I would say just rely on your defense. I think Denver will be okay. But like I said, I think it's just going to be too much from the Patriots offense. You can slow them down, but you're not going to stop them. So
Yeah.
That's where I'm at heading into this week. And, off of last week's game, just from the Patriots, it was a good defensive game plan. Had some good plays. It was sloppy from Buffalo's standpoint offensively. And, they came back into the game. Buffalo figured things out. They made some adjustments, and they went back to their roots and what was working for them. And that's one of those things that allowed Buffalo to get back in the game. But, again, it's going to be one – I feel like this week's going to be one of those games. You're going to see a lot of field goals.
Yeah.
It's easy to kick field goals in that place.
Yeah.
So
It is, yeah.
there's going to be a lot of field goals. Going to be some punting. It's not going to be the most entertaining game to watch unless you love defensive football, but which I do. I love defensive football. I'm a lineman. I love the trenches. I love figuring out defenses. And I think it's going to be a fun game to watch from my standpoint, but everyone who loves offense, maybe not the game for you, maybe tune into the NFC Championship, which we'll talk about, but it's just going to be one of those
two
ugly
really
games.
good defenses going at two really good defenses going at each other in this game. It's definitely going to be a low-scoring game. The over-under is 42.5, which isn't too high.
No.
But I did want to read a
No,
tweet
not at all.
from Nick Foles. Tweeted this after the Broncos beat the Bills. And Nick Foles tweeted this: "Note for the Broncos and their fans. I know it has been an emotional 24 hours. I feel for Bo and the team, and I am sending prayers for a strong recovery." On a positive note, going into the game versus the Patriots is that they struggle against backup QBs in championship-type games. So if the Broncos can find a way to have Jared Stidham put up a Nick Foles-type performance, then maybe that there's a chance. The only way that they have a chance is if they hold the Patriots' offense and they win the game off field goals. Because both defenses are very good, and it's not going to be a high-scoring game in my opinion. But with that being said, I am going to be taking the Patriots, and we'll talk more about that later. But I did have the Patriots in the beginning. Now it's going to be even easier for them with Bo Nix being out, and I still think they'll get it done.
If I was a betting man, I'd bet the under in that game.
Yeah, it is 42.5.
Oh,
They
yeah.
did lower it after they realized when Bo Nix was out that he'll be out.
Mhm.
But it's going to be I think it'll be a lower scoring game with a lot of field goals.
It's going to look like AFC North football.
Yeah,
Exactly what I'm
Oh,
used
yeah.
yeah,
AFC North in like January snow type weather
yeah, for sure.
type of
to.
game.
I'm going to put a big smile on my face watching that game, knowing that
But
if this was the Browns, we'd have a great chance.
Yeah, that is true against the Broncos.
Oh, my gosh.
It's another
In a game like that,
defensive powered game.
I don't know if Myles Garrett would get 5 sacks in a game against Garrett Bowles. That's the guy. I don't think he's had a sack against Garrett Bowles in his career.
Yeah, I don't know.
well, he had 5 against Will Got Better Soon Campbell. So
Well,
You're gonna have to
Will
see
Campbell is a
how
rookie,
Nick-
and Garrett Bowles is
he is.
Garrett Bowles is a multi-time All-Pro. Give Will Campbell some time.
He's going to get better.
No, I'm a big fan of Will Campbell's. I do like Will Campbell a lot. But, all right, to keep the ball moving here, the Seahawks steamroll the 49ers. They're on their way to host the NFC Championship game. Not a whole lot to talk about there when you take the opening kick back and just punch the 49ers, who are already depleted with injuries. Just they punched them right in the throat. It was pretty much over from as soon as the opening kickoff happened. 49ers also lose their defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh. He will be the new coach for the Tennessee Titans now. And the 49ers, they're always injured. That team, injuries murder that team every single year. And I'm not even going to use the injury excuse for them. They just got flat out blown off the field by the Seahawks on Saturday, was it? I believe it was Saturday.
Yep.
The Seahawks just blew them off the field. Like, even if they would have had Fred Warner, even if they would have had, who knows who else was injured. They're down 15 guys a week every week. But the Seahawks would have beaten them. That was not even close. It was just a complete mismatch. And that's what happens in the NFL sometimes. You just get beat, and the 49ers just got beat, and they got their asses kicked and handed to them. So congrats to the Seahawks. A.J. Barner. He'll be moving on. Mr. Tight End Sneak himself.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's not really much to talk about in this game other than the Seahawks just destroyed them from the beginning to the end. And they were clearly the better team. It was like the 49ers, like, they were playing with house money at this point with Brock Purdy with all the injuries. And it was like they made it too far, honestly. I don't think they deserved to get any farther than what they did. And they weren't going to have it. You guys heard what I said in the beginning. The Seahawks were going to win. The Seahawks are going to be going to the Super Bowl, in my opinion. But they had a free win against the 49ers. I thought they had it won from 2 weeks ago. I saw this game coming, and I would have said the Seahawks were going to kill them.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, the Seahawks look great from top to bottom. Their defense looks great. Their offense looks great. Everything's rolling for them so far. They have a great coaching staff. It's one of the reasons why I picked them to win it all. And I think Sam Darnold's going to find a way to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those games that what shocked me about it was how bad the 49ers offense was. I know their defense is taking a lot of injuries, but you still have Christian McCaffrey, you still have Brock Purdy on the field, and you're only able to get 6 points. It just baffled me how bad their offense played. And, knowing how good of a game manager that Kyle Shanahan is, as far as the offensive standpoint goes, it kind of shocked me a little bit how bad their offense played. I knew that Seattle was going to score some points in that game. I wouldn't have guessed it'd be 41. I would have guessed in the 30s. I'd say probably 31 to 35 points would have been my ceiling for Seattle's offense. I thought San Francisco would have put up at least 20, like a 31 to 20, 35-21, something like that. But not 41-6. That just shocked me. And returning the opening kickback, San Francisco, they've had some issues in their kickoff unit this year, as many teams have. You've seen a lot of issues with teams in their special teams this year, but I know their KOR unit is one of the better ones in the league. And when you're giving up 41 points, your KOR unit's on the field a lot, and I would expect to see them get some better field position than what they had. And if they're only going to be able to get field goals, at least have a couple more, like 41-12 or something like that. Thinking about that, could have at least doubled the amount of field goals they have if their KOR unit was playing at the top level they were. But Seattle special teams was one of the best in the NFL. They showed that Saturday night, and like you said, I think Seattle, in my opinion, is the most complete team in the NFL right now. Heading into the playoffs, I thought this team had. Every playoff team had some glaring flaws, but I thought Seattle hid their flaws the best. And the biggest flaw was, can Sam Darnold get it done? And he's proven that now.
Yeah. And
I don't think there's any doubt that Sam Darnold can get it done with the right coaching staff and the right team around him, which I think he has. So, that's just kind of where I stand from last week. Just shocked about how San Francisco's offense played, but also, thinking about Seattle, I think they're the runaway favorites right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Seattle, they look like a juggernaut right now, and it looks like they're finding their footing and their groove at the right time. All right. The next game, which took place on Sunday at 3 o'clock, the Patriots beat the Texans and are headed to the AFC title game to take on the Denver Broncos at Mile High. This was an all-out sloppy game. On both sides, the weather was sloppy. The teams played sloppy. It was a fumble fest. It was a pick fest. It was just crazy. It was crazy how sloppy both teams played in this game. We all knew the Texans' defense was very good. Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, Derek Stingley, Kamari Lassiter on the back end. They're solid, top to bottom. The Texans, also led by a great head coach and D'Amico Ryans. But as great as the Texans' defense played in that game, you're never going to win a football game when your quarterback throws 4 interceptions in the first half. The first half. C.J. Stroud, who I love, who's a Buckeye. C.J. Stroud, I'll defend him for a while, but it was tough to defend that one, C.J. 4 picks in the first half. Now, granted, his offensive line was not playing well. The Patriots were getting home on practically every single play, and Stroud, you just got to live to see another down. To just take a sack. I know people say you don't want to take sacks, but you've got to take sacks instead of just throwing the ball up in the air, hoping that, something happens. That's why he threw those 4 picks. He was very careless with the football. The Texans could not run the ball. They had no run game. I think Woody Marks ran 12 times for 17 yards or something like that. It was rough all around. And the Patriots, they got it done on defense too. The pick 6 by Marcus Jones, the sacks on Stroud getting constant pressure, and Drake May played well enough in that game to propel them to victory, especially against a great Texans front. Will Campbell had some issues again protecting the passer. He had some issues against the Chargers, so that's something to look out for moving forward is the blindside protection for the Patriots. Can the Broncos cause pressure and get around Will Campbell and get to May? To be seen, but very sloppy game, Texans-Patriots, but congratulations to the Patriots. They will be moving on and taking on the Broncos now.
Yeah, just when I thought that C.J. Stroud couldn't have played a worse game than the game he played before that game, it got worse, and it got worse just in the first half. I really thought that C.J. Stroud was going to bounce back and have a better game, and I guess he played a little bit better in the second half, but it was so bad. Like, he looked like he shouldn't have been out there at all. It looked like Davis Mills should have been out there, to be completely honest with you. Davis Mills should have played the second half based on the performance that C.J. Stroud put up in the first half. But I thought that C.J. Stroud was going to come out and play anything better than what he did the game before, where he had 5 total fumbles. 2 of them were lost. And he had 4 picks in the first half of that game. But that was pathetic from C.J. Stroud. And he's had good playoff games before. We weren't expecting them to be this bad, but it just made it easier for the Patriots to win the game. So they will continue to do what they've been doing. Drake May played. I think Drake May played solid. He did what he needed to do to win the game. And I mean, when the Houston offense has that many turnovers, it makes it really easy. It makes it really easy for you to win the game because you don't have to do that much. You just have to play a game manager role, which is what Drake May, what I joke around and say Drake game manager May has been doing. He just needs to keep doing that, and he'll have a trip to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, this is a game that I kind of saw coming as far as the turnovers and the sloppiness. With 2 great defenses like that, especially the Texans having just a terrible offensive line from top to bottom, and not being able to run the football, especially in conditions that you need to run the football in conditions like that. And that is what New England could do. They were able to run the ball, and the Texans couldn't. With their offensive line the way it was, they were kind of forced to throw the ball and, not having a lot of time in the pocket to throw. And as an offensive lineman, KT, like you said, taking a sack, in all honesty, the best case scenario, throwing an interception, taking a sack would be blatantly hold. And what I mean by that is your quarterback's not running around like a chicken with his head cut off. If he gets hit, he's not going to be eating his Happy Meals from a straw. And the hold, you're going to lose the same amount of yardage. This is what I've been taught, right? So it's one of those things where don't have a lot of time in the pocket and you're throwing it up against a good defense, they're going to get interceptions. And taking a sack, yeah, there's times where you might want to take a sack, but if you know you're going to get rocked, just if offensive line, you know you're getting beat, just throw that guy to the ground and take the holding call. Just take the
Yeah,
penalty.
it's better than a turnover.
Better than a turnover.
Yeah.
Better than your quarterback getting his head ripped off. Like, yeah, you're losing 10 yards, but I mean, at that point, you can't. They're not running the ball well. There's really not much you can do except stop the Patriots' offense, which, again, the Patriots were able to run the ball, and Drake May was doing what he had to do. And he had time in the pocket when he wanted to throw, so that's what he did. So it's one of those games where, for the Texans, they're kind of screwed from the beginning. You had bad weather. You had a depleted offensive line. You were missing your best receiver, and you just can't run the football. Patriots, they had their receivers playing. They had their guys. They were able to run the football, and that was the difference in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just really what it comes down to. So, yeah, good for the Patriots. They're a much more likable team now than they were 10 years ago. So I'm really would like to see C.J. Stroud and the Texans try and get to a Super Bowl one day. It'd be cool to see the Texans make a Super Bowl for the first time. I mean, they got to get to the AFC Championship first, which they've never done either. But again, just I was able to see that coming from a mile away. I didn't watch a ton of the first half for life reasons, but just overall going back and watching it, just could kind of see it coming.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a good way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Rough game for Stroud. Hopefully he bounces back. I believe he'll bounce back. But, all right, the last game of the weekend, which many will say this was the game of the weekend. The Rams took down the Bears in another snow game in Chicago. Temperatures were Arctic, just bone-chilling. And an overtime game. Again, it came down to turnovers. Caleb Williams turned the ball over 3 times. He threw 3 interceptions in this game. And Matt Stafford and the Rams made him pay for it. I mean, but I do want to point out that throw Caleb Williams made on 4th down and 4, I believe it was, at the end of the game, where he chucked it off his back foot to Cole Kmet on like a fadeaway throw. That was one of the best plays I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
That was phenomenal. That was a phenomenal play.
That was
but
the wildest
again, like
thing I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, that was crazy.
yeah, that was a phenomenal play. The Bears were a fun team this year to watch. Good head coach in Ben Johnson. He developed Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, if you guys remember, Caleb Williams was not that great last year. He was just okay. This year, he looked like he could be a top 15 quarterback in football. I'm not going to push it and put any unreal expectations on him, but the work Ben Johnson put in with Caleb Williams to get him comfortable, to get him to be able to play the way he did, they won a playoff game. Nobody expected the Bears to win a playoff game this year. People thought the Bears would be better than last year, but not, the point where they could make some serious noise. They pushed the Rams, who I think are going to go on to the Super Bowl, to overtime, even with 3 turnovers. They pushed them to the fullest extent. Now, that's not something that I saw coming, but again, a veteran quarterback in Matt Stafford made the Bears pay for those turnovers, executed, and they ended up kicking the game-winning field goal. I want to give a shout-out to my buddy who, I don't know if you watch his golf channel, but he said the funniest thing that the NFL comes down to is always the fat white kicker that decides whether or not the game is going to end with his team winning or his team losing. It always comes down to the kicker. The least unathletic person on the field is the one who likely decides games. I thought that was hilarious. And again, that's exactly what happened. It came down to a field goal. The Rams made it. Harrison Mevis, and the rest was history. But congratulations to the Rams. They're going to have their hands full this week with the Seahawks.
Yeah, you said it best. I mean, we did not expect this from Ben Johnson. We said this on the last podcast. We didn't expect this from Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams this year. We expected it to take a little more time, but a lot of credit to Ben Johnson developing Caleb Williams. And it still seems like Caleb Williams has so much more in the tank, but for him to do this and carry this team to this far in the playoffs with Ben Johnson is really impressive. And I did not see it coming like this early. But with that being said, I think the Rams deserve to win this game. It was a lot low scoring, and it could have been because of cold. I thought it was a lot more low scoring than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a shootout. It ended up only being 20-17. But I did want to talk about that one play because that one play was crazy. Probably the greatest play of the playoffs this far. You guys probably agree with that.
Probably the best throw of the
that was
season.
Crazy. And it looked like the defender. It looked like it was a tad bit of a push off, but the defender just stopped and thought that the ball was coming right to him, and it just sailed right over his head to the tight end. Who was it?
Cole Kmet.
Cole Kmet, who was behind him. It's like he forgot that Kmet was even behind him. He looked at the ball and he was like stargazing at the ball, and he forgot that Cole Kmet was sitting right behind him in the end zone, wide open. But that was crazy, and it was really cool for that play to happen because it just made everything more exciting.
Just piggybacking off of that, this was a cold weather game, and I thought both teams did a great job, preparing for the cold, especially LA, who is a team that's not used to playing in that weather. Chicago is a tough place to play, and again, it came down to the kickers, and you got kick in the elements. It's windy, it's cold, and I thought both kickers did a good job. I thought that play was just phenomenal. My roommate, the Saints fan, is also a quarterback, so he loved the throw and was giving some great analysis on how great of a throw it really was. You couldn't have put that ball any better and make a play on it. I want to say a portion of it was kind of luck, but the majority of it was just raw throwing power and knowing that he's down there somewhere, and just having to put it in the corner of the end zone for Cole Kmet to make a play was really, really awesome to see. But yeah, just a great game overall. One of the best playoff games I've seen in a while between two teams that were really fun to watch this year. And unfortunately, one team had to lose, and that was the Bears, and who came down. It was, again, the turnover battle, and that interception in overtime by the Bears was really tough to see. I really wanted the Bears to win this game. My grandma and my uncle were both big Bears fans, so I really wanted to see the Bears win this game. But, just came up a little bit short. But I think the Bears are going to be fine. I think they'll be back. They have a great coach. Their team is getting stronger and stronger. I think they're going to be around a while as one of the better teams in the NFL.
Yeah. All right. Last question. Is the Big Ten the best conference in college football? The best answer, yes. The Big Ten is the best conference in college football. 3 straight years. Well, one of them we have an asterisk next to it. 3 straight years, 3 straight champs in college football. Or 3 different champs, coming from the Big Ten in Michigan, Ohio State, and Indiana. I don't know how people can say the Big Ten is not. And you have other great teams in the Big Ten, like Oregon is very good. USC is very good. All of these teams are just very good in the Big Ten. The SEC, it's very top-heavy, and they're just not as good as the Big Ten. The Big Ten has the champs.
Is the Big Ten the best conference in college football? I have a really easy answer for you, and the answer is yes. After LSU, you had Georgia a couple times, you had Alabama a couple times that won. But I'll just give you 3 teams right off the bat of why the Big Ten is the best conference in the league now. And it's because of the last 3 national champions. Michigan, OSU, and now Indiana. That's the reason why the Big Ten is the best conference in college football right now.
I pretty much agree with you on that. The Big Ten is the best conference in college football.